Hi everyone, good morning and welcome to this part two in this webinar. This is the interesting part. So we are focusing on how you can revolutionize customer experiences with Microsoft and artificial intelligence. So without further ado, let's go and get into the presentation. So my name is Leon Godwin. I am the Principal Cloud Evangelist here at Cloud Direct. My job is to help customers and colleagues alike on their cloud journey. I'm a free of charge resource, and my job is to share my expertise to make your life easier. I'm quite prolific on LinkedIn, especially on the subject of AI. So if you're interested in following me, you can see my contact details there on the screen. Okay, we've got a lot to cover today, so I'm going to get straight into it. So, data and AI. I remember this is very much a customer experience centric webinar. So if we look at the anatomy of the motivations and challenges and the opportunity space that exists within the customer experience and retail sector, we have the need and desire to create more seamless experiences for customers, and that's about truly understanding what it is they need. That involves how they interact with the business, how you can make certain choices, and being key to understanding the customer is key to delivering better customer experiences. Often this can be challenged with a fragmented back end. So I'm going to touch on a little bit of that today. And these inefficiencies can impact the overall experience. So it's all about streamlining your infrastructure in such a way that you can exploit your data with AI to deliver those seamless experiences. Getting timely insights is another element that is a key motivator for people who are looking to improve customer experiences. A lot of time this data isn't timely to be able to make informed decisions, to be able to pivot, and we're going to explore how data and AI can go and help in that space. All these slides will be available, by the way. If this is something that you'd like to have these slides, we're more than happy to share them with you. So one of the other challenges that I see with most organizations that are on this journey is down to the quality of the data that they have. If rubbish in, rubbish out. So it's key to be able to establish what is the quality of your data to make sure that it aligns with the 6 pillars of data quality, and I'll touch on that in a little bit, so you can exploit that data for the best customer experience outcomes. Multi-channel is another component, being able to deliver these customer experiences where you've got a consistency of experience regardless of the modality in which you're engaging with or customers are engaging with your organization, whether it be web, phone, email, apps, etc. And then finally, there is a motivation to make sure that the technology stack is appropriate for the needs, that you're not over provisioning, but equally you're doing everything that is delivering business outcomes, but in a cost-effective manner. So let's just have a little bit of context around AI. So when I was preparing for this presentation, I was thinking about, I was actually watching Silence of the Lambs, and there was a quote that came up on it from Marcus Aurelius, and it was, of each particular thing, ask what is it in of itself? What is its nature? So what is the nature of AI? Well, it's about mimicking human cognition, our ability to think. It's basically trying to mimic that capability. AI is capable of learning, it's capable of reasoning, and it understands language. And from a capabilities point of view, it's incredibly accurate in what it does. It can achieve much higher standards of accuracy than humans. Its speed is outstanding. So, for example, a human can read roughly 200 to 300 words a minute, whereas AI has hundreds or thousands of orders of magnitude greater speed capability when it comes to reading and understanding text. It's incredibly scalable. Most humans, as much as we like to think we can multitask, in reality, we can't cook and drive a car at the same time. There are many things that we can't actually multitask on, whereas AI is capable of doing many parallel processes. So when we say multitasking, we're talking about doing two things and we're jumping from one to the other. It's doing them in parallel, and it can do it at much, much greater scale. And it's capable of automating business processes using its knowledge and skills. It's able to do things that a human would do to move things through a business process. It also doesn't get tired like humans do. Come 3:30 on a Friday, I'm basically useless. This is incredibly useful to have an artificial intelligent employee that is incredibly consistent and doesn't get tired, doesn't suffer from outages and illnesses like humans do. And is capable of doing higher reasoning cognitive thoughts like data analysis. Now, if you think about all those characteristics in a person, you know, someone who's fast, accurate, can do lots of different things, can run through processes, is always consistent and can do deep analytics, that's an employee you'd want to hire. That's great. And that's why businesses are effectively looking to adopt, especially in the business to consumer sector, because they want to operate better, faster, cheaper. And by being able to adopt AI is, just think of AI as its traits, as if it was a person. Would you want to hire that person? And most organizations are settling on the most definitely side of the answer. And then if we now look at it from a business context, rather than just rather than AI specifically, what would we want AI to do? Well, we want to apply it within the business. And that means integrating it with a business process. So what is a business process in this context? Well, most organizations have at least 55 processes within their organizations. B2C, it's actually much higher. And so every process, there is a trigger event, an initial input that can normally be expressed as data. I've got a phone call, Dave came over, asked me to go and do something, a ticket's arrived on the system, some kind of triggering event that will initiate an action. And given that that can be expressed as data, we can start doing stuff with that. So what would we do with that? We would undertake a bunch of tasks, and those are all the activities needed to be able to move that workflow through a process, and those often need additional inputs. So for example, an invoice arrives, you'll go and input it in the system, but it needs to be reconciled against a purchase order, or a query comes in from a customer, a support ticket comes in, and it gets kicked up to level 2 support because it requires a different level of expertise, a different level of knowledge, and additional input is required. And once you have the order, you have the task, they have to be done in a certain order. You can't start at the end, they go in a particular order. And then within that, you get forks within that process. Let's say it's just an approval process, something fairly simple. Are you going to pay this expense or are you not? Are we going to deliver this on time or are we not? There is a decision point within that can fork these processes into different pathways. Every process usually has a decision point that kind of forks it, a yes, a no, and then every process needs some kind of resource. Often it's people resources, which is where AI can go and help, but also it can be technological resources that are needed to be able to move these processes on. And at the end of it, you want a high quality outcome. So that outcome could be, it should be measurable in terms of its quality. Did you answer and respond to that customer within the SLA? Did the invoice get input into that platform accurately and timely? So every process shares this anatomy. And so if you are going to apply AI into your business process, and again, we're thinking about customer experience here, but this is true of every business process, there's no point applying it to something that you do once or twice a year. It needs to be a process of reasonable significance. And processes largely fall into three categories. This isn't exhaustive list, but they're largely either operational in nature, supporting in nature, or managerial in nature, maybe reporting or something like that. So think about one of the key starting points, and we'll cover this in the strategy step. If you are going to apply AI, why? Don't just say AI is the answer. Now, what's the question? What business process are you looking to solve for? What business advantage and what goal is it going to address? Now, within all these processes, this is more of a public sector type example, but someone wants a planning application. A citizen would go in and they'd submit a planning request. It would be assigned to a planner. The planner says, oh, I need diagrams and surveys and permissions and what have you, and requests that additional information from the citizen. And there is a follow-up where there'll be a sort of Q&A because there's a debate about a certain issue. And then ultimately a decision will be made around that planning, that to approve it or not. That may involve utilising portals and document repositories, and ultimately a decision will be made, a compliant decision, either positive or negative, but it will be a compliant decision at the end of it. And if we take that same thing and then apply it to Microsoft and its technology stack, there are a whole bunch of tools that can assist with different elements of this process. So most of you on this call will have a subscription of Business Premium or higher for your Microsoft 365 SKU, which means you already have access to Power Platform. Without any premium connectors, you already have that. You have it today on your laptop. Just go to office.com and just go to the little ellipse in the top and search for Power Automate, Power Apps. There are lots of different tools and capabilities within those platforms that you've probably got and you're not using today. So you can make the most of your existing investment just by using the tools you already have. So inputs can come from calls and emails, come from a chatbot, come through a triggered event that happens on a schedule or something that you can then automate with tasks. You can use AI. AI Builder is this model where you can kind of extract data out of documents, say invoices, for example. You can go and layer on your existing business process, and there's an application to help you understand the sequence and whether there's any inefficiencies in a process called process mining. Again, you've got this. This is in your subscription today. Notifications. If something's going to happen, you don't necessarily want to put a post-it on Bob's desk and wait for him to go and respond. You can send notifications that will go straight to his phone because he's out in the field, and he can click a button and approve something to help the process move on. These are all things that you have today. And then moving on, if you want to do it at more enterprise scale, then there are an equivalent set of services. So logic apps are something I'm really, really keen on. They sound complicated, but it's really simple. It's basically Power Automate on steroids. In fact, Power Automate is like a subset of logic apps, and it's just a GUI. It says, what's my trigger event? What do I do next? So an email arrives, go and save the attachment. And it can be very simple micro little elements like that. But as you move down, you can start layering on AI. If it needs to make decisions to move stuff, it needs to be able to extract data. There are a bunch of AI capabilities and tools within Microsoft that can enhance your business process. So I'm going to try and bring that to life throughout this webinar. So if we think about AI, I like to categorize AI in three categories. Personal accelerators make me as an individual look like a hero. B, make my department operate more efficiently. And C, make my business operate more efficiently. And when you have this mindset, culturally, it's actually much easier to adopt the personal accelerators, because when people start understanding the benefit it can have on their jobs, effectively like hiring a personal assistant that's virtual, that can assist you in your job, you become more productive. And then people get used to using that kind of AI capability. So here we have a customer experience manager, and this customer experience manager is using Microsoft 365 Copilot. And this particular manager has lots of different responsibilities, from developing strategies and campaigns and staying up to date with information and managing budgets, all the different things that a customer experience team would be focused on, their responsibilities are myriad. And then just to give this a little bit of context, there's Microsoft do this for a couple of years now. They've been doing this massive, and it's an ongoing report, the Work Trend Index, and they take trillions of data points to understand, from LinkedIn, from various scientific companies, to pull data on how people work. And in a recent survey, in fact, the next iteration is coming out shortly, 33% of people said they want AI to help them produce high quality work in half the time. They want that. I wouldn't mind betting that in this next report, that number is significantly higher. So there is an appetite there. Some people are already ready for it, even though they're not using it. So if we go back to our customer experience manager, who has that, he's part of that 33% that says, yeah, I'm up for using AI. So this customer experience manager, we'll call Sarah. So Sarah manages a 5-person team, and Sarah wants to launch a new flagship product, and they want to take that to market, and they want to execute some targeted promotions. So Sarah and a team, they have a meeting, and they want to say, right, we need to understand our customer profile. Who is it we're targeting in this? And within that meeting, there's lots of ideas flowing, and everything's going really, really well. And towards the conclusion of that meeting, Sarah jumps into Copilot and says, can you just summarize the key points from this meeting that relate to building customer profiles? So it's able to filter out the extraneous information that isn't relevant to that building of customer profiles, and provides the answer that Sarah needs. And then Sarah says, okay, well, that's great, you've given me the answer in Teams because that's where I asked you the question, but then pivots over to Word and says, all right, I'd like to put some structure around that. So then asks the same question. So can you take those customer profile information in Teams into Word? So now a conversation that happened between humans that was monitored and participated in with Copilot within Microsoft Teams, that same thread of thought and action is now synthesized within Word, and so that's now followed between applications, and Copilot obliges and goes and creates some Word. And Sarah said, let's go and develop this Word document. Let's generate some taglines for the promotion. And Copilot duly obliges. And in the afternoon, she wants to take those and she asks Copilot to do some more work. And she wants to use something called Microsoft Loop. Now, I bet many of you have never heard of Microsoft Loop, and the vast majority of you have probably already got it. I would encourage you to have a look at it. It's actually quite a good productivity saver. And so Loop then generates the content, and then she says, right, well, that's great in a Word document. We understand that that's got the context, but I need to be able to communicate those ideas more visually. So then asks Copilot to go and visualize that information within PowerPoint. So now we've used 5 different applications, but the same thread and thought pattern has followed through all those applications. And then ultimately she wants to communicate that, and so all the illustrations are created within Copilot, all related to the customer profile that she's trying to target for this next campaign, and composes an email and socializes that information. But she didn't compose the email, Copilot did, because it understood the context from the very first meeting and how that context developed over time, and the additional human input and the AI's input to move that concept and mature it as it went through these different applications, till ultimately the full conceptualized idea with data points is to be able to be effectively communicated in an email that the AI drafted, Sarah reviews, Sarah clicks send. It's made her life a lot easier, because Sarah hasn't had to go and create all these things from scratch. They've not had to record meeting notes. They've not had to write Word documents from scratch. They've not had to use PowerPoint and write emails all from scratch. 80% of the work was done by AI. So it can be a massive personal accelerator for her and her role, delivering a better customer experience. And then we go and move on to departmental accelerators. So her team are now, they're all bought in, they get AI, that's making, I'm a hero now. I've done stuff that would have taken me 3 weeks and I've done it in a couple of days, because I've now got the power of AI helping me as an individual in my role. But my whole team are doing that and they're all experiencing the benefits. So now culturally they're more in tune with AI. So then they start thinking more strategically as an organization about the use of AI. So they think about shopping experiences. What can we do to improve the personalisation of shopping experiences? You've all used Netflix. It makes recommendations, and those are based on this exact same process I'm going to describe. The goal is to make recommendations, but what do you recommend? And it all starts with data analytics. Well, actually, with movies, actually relatively easy, because that's actually a less complicated ecosystem. And things like retail can sell many different products and it can be a little more nuanced. So it all starts with understanding the purchase history from that particular individual. Understanding their browsing behavior. Where were they going? What were they doing? You've all seen it on Amazon. You've gone to Amazon and it says, these, you also looked at these things. Have you considered those things? Now, this was the realm of enterprise type organizations, but now it's come all the way down to the stack. So very small organizations can start making use of this in a cost efficient way. You can monitor with cookies, things like social media interactions and preferences, any reviews that they've done, because that's the only reason reviews actually exist, is it's about creating data points. It's not actually, we think from a customer experience, it's about that we can go and assess these things. It's like loyalty cards. They're just mechanisms to be able to collect more data to make more informed decisions. And when you have that data and you want to make a decision, you want to be able to understand do that analysis, do that pattern recognition on their behaviors and other people that might fall into the same thing. What do those other people do? And all of that sort of analysis can help you then refine a set of outcomes of recommendations. Having those recommendations synthesized from their behaviors and the analytics, you're then able to say, right, these are my recommendations. I am going to associate those recommendations with that user's profile. And now those users get the recommendations and your revenue should be increasing. But from a customer experience point of view, they're now getting relevant adverts rather than just nonsense. We've all checked our spam folder and seen the nonsense in there. You don't want their shopping experience to be like that. You want it to be a professional quality shopping experience, so it's making good recommendations. And then another example would be price. So one of the things that happens with many different enterprise organizations, and now this is available cost effectively to the SMB market, is doing price optimization analysis. And what this graph is showing is effectively you have the volume of sales that take place and the relationship between the volume of sales and the price point at which you're selling it. So you may sell it incredibly cheaply, and yes, you might make a lot of sales, but your revenue wouldn't be great because you're just selling it way under market price. Conversely, if you sell it for £1 million, no one's going to buy it, and so there is a relationship between the price point and the revenue that you will make, and understanding what those are gives you the optimal price point. But it doesn't stop there, because the optimal price point you may take, because you're thinking of things from a customer experience perspective. I want to be able to say that we are offering the best prices on the market. We've all seen different websites doing this, that we are the cheapest around for X, Y, and Z. And what they're doing is actually using a machine learning model that says, right, I understand the sort of retail position, but what that doesn't take into account is the rest of the marketplace. What's going on with the competitors, what they're selling it for, and then pulling in that data allows you to individually adjust your products against what might be thousands of products that you might have, and moves the optimal price point left and right. So you're maximizing your revenue while still giving the customer the experience of a more optimally priced product. So that's another way in which AI and data can go and help. And then finally, the big one, this is something that I think is going to be, it's a relatively easy access into the world of AI, but I think it's also the one that's we're going to see a lot more of. And certainly there are many organizations doing this, and it's kind of a game changer. It's just a chatbot. Now, chatbots, we've all used them on websites, and they're largely rubbish because they're largely basically a chatbot is given a Q&A. And if the customer is asking something relevant to that Q&A, then it gives a kind of copy-paste type response. That isn't a great experience. It's not personalized and it's not intelligent. But with AI now, these things can go much further. So I created a little scenario for you, and then I'll show you what's going on in the background. So here we have a customer who has ordered a product, but they have a problem with their product. So the AI responds saying, sorry to hear that, and can you tell me the nature of the problem, and can you tell me your order number? Sure, I ordered a medium-sized black jacket, but I got a large blue jacket. No other information other than that, except for the order number. The AI thinks, okay, order number, I can do something intelligent with that. So it starts thinking, and then it responds, and it says, I apologize for the mistakes. I can confirm that the medium Trailmaster, bearing in mind the customer didn't say that, we do have that correct size in black. Would you like a refund, or would you like me to send it out? Also, I'll arrange for a courier to come and pick up the jacket. It will be with you on Wednesday. Does that work? Yeah, Wednesday will be fine. And no, I would like you to send a jacket. I don't want a refund. Great. The AI thinks again and says, right, I've arranged for that jacket to be ordered and it will be with you within 48 hours. I put it on a priority dispatch. And then going back to the courier, the customer changing subject has then gone back to say, what time will the courier arrive? The AI then goes and gives the context that the AI will arrive, that they'll get an email within the next hour providing all the tracking information so they'll know exactly when the courier is going to arrive. So a great customer experience from the user required quite a lot of intelligence and information. So let's go and look at how that was achieved. So it required data, it required information. The customer is calling, so they want to log a ticket. So the IT service management system, a ticket is created and the AI creates that ticket. When there was information about how long will the courier arrive, actually that came from the standard FAQ. That's just a knowledge-based repository of knowledge that it was able to go and pull that information out. When it came to the order, because they had the order number, they were able to look at the sales data and actually see what the customer was supposed to have ordered, and AI was able to say, right, I understand what the specific product you ordered from the order number. Let me then go to the inventory system and see if we had that in stock. Yes, it does. So it's able to be able to pull data from multiple pipelines to be able to feed that information into AI so it is able to have a better customer experience or deliver a better customer experience and provide the insights and support the customer needed. The interaction was relatively brief. It got to a positive outcome really quickly, and it didn't require expensive human resources to go and achieve it. Historically, we might try chatbots, but generally speaking, we turn around and search for the contact us page and try to speak to a human. And there will be cases where that will still happen. Emotive situation, complex situations, people will prefer not to engage with AI. But when you start adding more data points in, you are going to have a situation where an AI will be able to hold simultaneously 500 conversations, resolve 80% of customer queries just by going through this portal and giving it the data that it needs to be able to be effective in that 80%. Then you would do an exercise to understand, okay, what do we need to do to get up to 85%? We can't, we can, it needs another data point, and you would respond appropriately. So I've shown a bunch of different data and a bunch of different AI stuff that can solve for different use case scenarios. But the one thing they had in common is data. Data is at the heart of everything that I just described. And it's really important to have quality data. We start to think of data more, we tend to think of it as silos. It's finance data, it's HR data, it's sales data, it's customer data. We think of it as silos. We even architect in a way where we have a server and we have a database, and there is a relationship between those two. We tend not to think of data holistically. But if you think about data, it's holistically as a single asset. Then you can actually start doing things more cleverly. From an infrastructure perspective, rather than having 900 SQL databases spread around all over the shop, deliver a single cohesive platform as a service for your database, say Azure SQL, and bring all that in. Now all of a sudden that is kind of universally addressable. So the idea is, bring all your data and apply data intelligence to all your data to be able to say, right, my goal is I want deeper relationships with my customers, or I want to be able to deliver better operations and more efficient operations, because that will translate as a better customer experience. I'm solving problems quicker, I'm delivering product faster. The products I'm producing are going to be better because they're at a more optimal price point. My staff are happier because they're able to be more productive in their role. So bringing that centralization of data and that mindset of saying data is a single asset, not siloed assets. Now that's a journey that you go on. Now most of you probably have already migrated to a cloud platform. Now, we largely talk as migrations as a server migration or as an application migration, but actually behind the scenes, it's just ones and zeros. They're just virtual machines. It's just data. At the end of the day, we're actually migrating data. And again, when we get into that mindset and we think less about the capabilities of an application per se, or a server per se, actually think of it as data, then we can start thinking about things slightly differently. We can say, well, how can we modernize that data? Because if we modernize that data, we can start doing clever things. We can start doing clever things like running advanced analytics, or maybe infusing AI into some of our applications to deliver better, faster, more strategic outcomes. And then obviously you can, when you've got that analytics in place and you know the quality of your data, you've made it accessible, then you have this kind of position where, okay, well, I've got this really valuable asset now. Let's go and see how I can use either machine learning models for those that want to go down that route, or just AI models working on that data, such as that chatbot example I gave you. You can start doing more advanced things when you start treating data correctly within an organization. So when it comes for, how do I do this? It all starts with assessing where are you with your data. Remember, rubbish in, rubbish out, or words to that effect. So what is the state of your data? Is it healthy? Is it good? Is it accurate? Is it timely? Is it complete? What is the state of my data? Where is my data? You've all probably experiencing data sprawl because it's in lots of different systems that are generally speaking accessible only to that system. For those that haven't migrated to cloud, if I took my car for an MOT the other day, they didn't do the MOT on my drive. I had to take my car to the place where they had the tools and equipment to be able to MOT my car. It's the same with the cloud. If you want the best tools to be able to deliver stuff, you would want to take your data to the cloud. Microsoft have the most powerful AI on the planet, and so it makes sense to take your data. It doesn't actually have to be exhaustively. Some things you can go and call from other systems. It depends on your nature, whether you need real time and what have you. But generally speaking, migrating to the cloud is a very, very good idea. I will say I'm certified in lots and lots of different clouds, and I've largely been cloud agnostic for a number of years. But this last 12 months, the gap has just been leaps and bounds because of the strategic relationships that Microsoft have with OpenAI and their $10 billion investment. And there's another huge investment they've just made in another multi-billion-pound investment in another AI company. They have the world's greatest models available to them. And the other great thing about it is, yes, you can do all these things on like open source environment, and within, some use ChatGPT and what have you. But it's your data, that's not secure. You've got an established security boundary. You log in with your email address. That's because you've got Azure Active Directory, Enter ID. You have an established two-factor authentication. You've built your security perimeter. So put your data and keep your data inside that perimeter, and go and give it to someone else who's going to go and use it to go and train their AI in the future. So you need to focus on security. Is your data secure, and where are you putting your data? I do a wonderful little demo where I build an application that can do all these clever things, and everyone's kind of, oh, that's impressive, look how powerful it is. Then I show, actually, this is completely the wrong way to do it, because then I go and ask it, how much money does anyone earn? And it answers, well, it says, pint of beer and 2 packets of crisps, but it answers the question, because it shouldn't know that information. I've given that information to a third party beyond my security boundary. Keep your data inside your Microsoft established security boundary. Organize your data, have the correct governance, make sure your data is of the right quality, make sure it's accessible. This kind of siloed approach, put the connections in place to allow your data to be exploited by something other than the application it was originally given for, because that's where the additional value comes from. And then when you have those components, you can make data-driven decisions. So how are you going to make those decisions? How are you going to get that? What questions? Sometimes you don't even know the right questions to ask. Maybe an AI, you can go see the data, can provide you insights, so you know there are questions to go and ask of your data. And then obviously you want to make sure that you are adopting AI in an ethical way. You do not want your decisions to contain within them some unfair bias. So this is an ongoing process where, yes, you've gone and delivered your AI solution, and it is fantastic. It's delivering amazing outcomes. You're now much more competitive in the market, and you're trouncing the competition, but you have an ongoing responsibility to make sure you're using that data ethically, and you're not introducing bias that is going to disenfranchise any particular group. So if we just break this down to cause and effect, need and outcome, by analysing customer data, you can gain insights into what products the customers want, their preference for how they engage and consume product. We've obviously seen a massive shift towards online versus in-store, but how can you maximise those revenues further? When you do that, you can identify unusual patterns. You can start doing some more clever things with that data. If you can collect feedback from customers, and this is why things like loyalty programs and review things exist. These are just mechanisms for further data capture. But the idea is that you can identify areas where you can improve, and you've got a way of measuring customer satisfaction, and that allows you to create a baseline to know, is what I'm doing having a positive or a negative impact on customer experience? And can you understand the demographic and behaviours and preferences of your customer base? Because that segmentation will allow you to do more targeted campaigning. And this is something, I'm doing an exercise at the moment where I'm trying to develop an AI where I will take a whole bunch of postcodes and create a heat map, and then be able to understand the distribution of our customer base, and then work out, okay, well, if I change it by this customer segment, does that change the geographical distribution? And therefore, having that insight, I can make maybe more informed decisions about where to go and hold events, perhaps. So we've looked at those personal accelerators, we've looked at those departmental accelerators, and now we have organizational accelerators. This is about taking things holistically. So this isn't a single department that's just focusing on pricing a product or providing a customer service team virtual capability. This is multi-departmental kind of scenario. So let's say you start off with an external sales system. My colleague Adam, he works in marketing, and he runs campaigns, and we sell, as a company, we sell widgets. And so we have a website that sells widgets, and someone goes and places an order for those widgets. And then maybe, organizations will maybe take financial information from those orders to be able to make financial decisions and information to the board and finance people as to what's going on in terms of sale. That's pretty common. There's nothing revolutionary there. That's, most organizations should be at this point. But then integrating inventory management, that's actually not necessarily that's fully integrated. Often that isn't a connected line. It's a human being that is in the mix that's actually going through, pulling off orders, printing them off, adding whatever information, handing it over to the other team. That can be quite a common exercise. But then I mentioned Adam. Well, Adam runs campaigns to go and sell our widgets, and those campaigns have various degrees of success. But that information is stored within our CRM, and then what we do is we then pull in data and say, well, why don't we give that information to either an AI model or a machine learning model. I probably should explain. Machine learning is the concept of going to class and receiving knowledge from the teacher. But the moment you leave that classroom, your knowledge is static. But then when someone comes up to you, so let's say I go to class and I learn the 10 times 10 table. I have that knowledge, I understand it, I'm good. I leave the classroom, I've ended my machine learning. But then someone comes up to me and say, what's 11 times 11? Well, I'm able to answer that because what I actually learned was multiplication. And as a byproduct of learning that, even though that was a situation I wasn't trained on, I was able to be effective in it. And that's an AI model. You train a model that's you train it up to a point, and when you finish training, that's static. You leave, and your output is an AI model that you then go and deploy, and it goes and does that. So we can feed data in this particular example into a machine learning model to get it to understand our business. Maybe we add in other data like support ticket systems, and we turn that until ultimately it understands all that information, and now we say, right, we're deploying. It's an AI model. It understands our business, and now it's just tracking BAU, what's going on. And one of the things it realizes is Adam, he's turned around and said, I've launched a campaign, and we've noticed historically when Adam does a campaign, he's so good at his job that it drives loads of traffic to the website. And so the promise to the customer to deliver a good customer experience is we promise next day delivery for the products that have been ordered. But he's so successful, he's overwhelmed the inventory, and the inventory runs out. So the inventory has to go to the supply chain to go and replenish that industry, which means for 50% of the orders, we're unable to go and sell the product in that commitment, which means customers are now getting on the phone and doing support tickets, creating problems and lowering customer experience, all because Adam's good at his job. But the AI model the machine learning model has analysed all that, it's understood it, and now that it's an AI model, it's turning around and saying, inventory, Adam's about to do a campaign, go and increase your inventory stock to a higher level. Leon's doing a campaign, he's rubbish at campaigning. Let's go and lower our stock so we have more cash in reserve, so we're more liquid as an organisation, because Leon's not terribly effective when it comes to campaigning. So it can understand the nature and the impact across businesses from different data sources, from different departments in an organisation. That's an example of how AI and machine learning can deliver value. In this case, it's delivering a customer experience outcome, but it's also providing that financial insight into organisations, so leadership know where to make additional investment to be able to deliver better outcomes. So AI is indeed your best companion. I don't know how we're doing for time, but I love AI. I use it. I used to use Google extensively. I would say 400% more. I spend more time using AI than I do Google. I get it. I'm very good at getting it to bend to my will, and it makes me look really, really good at my job, despite the fact that maybe I'm not as competent as I think I am. But no one else knows, except for you guys, that actually a lot of what I do is because of the capabilities of AI. So hopefully I'm just going to play this little video that shows some sort of analytics and visualization from a customer experience perspective. So this is really, really cool. I really like this. As of all the Copilots, it's actually one of my favorite ones. So Copilot for Power BI, you plug in your data, it's got like 200, 300 different connectors. You plug in your data and you can start getting insights and having conversations with your data. You're describing in words, it's describing, communicating visually back the answers. If you don't know the words, you tell it, I want insights, but I don't know what I don't know. Can you help me? And it'll help you and it'll provide you that insight. It's really, really powerful. Again, it's dependent on the quality. Oops. Again, it's dependent on the quality of the data. Another example, and again, this is a shorter example, is Microsoft provide the tools for you to go and deliver AI tools to your business. You have access to Power Virtual Agents, or at least 80+% of you today. You'll already have access to this today. And I'm going to show you, this is a video I recorded of me building an AI chatbot that had business contextualized information in about a minute and a half, something like that. I think I sped up the videos, it's even shorter, but I'll just run through that. So I give the chatbot a name. I say, I want to create it, I'll give it a name. So then it spends about 30 seconds going, setting up the stuff in the background, and goes and creates the AI. I said, great, well, I want to give it generative AI capabilities. So then I turn around and say, go to this website for additional information, and then also go to this SharePoint site and go and get additional information. And also, here's a whole load of documentation that you might find useful to answering customer queries. Maybe we've done a trawl through the IT service management system. We synthesized that into a knowledge base that's helpful for customers. Now, all of a sudden, we're chatting with a chatbot. We're asking it questions, it's giving contextualized answers about the business and about the technology. In this case, I give it a little Microsoft product knowledge, and it's able to go and deliver business contextualized answers that quickly. So now I've built the chatbot. What I didn't show in this video was a couple more clicks, and you can actually deploy it as a web app. And then it also, as part of that web app, you have a code base, give it to your website person, copy and paste, bosh, you've now got an AI running on your website. It's quite easy. Obviously, it's important that the data is the right quality. You wouldn't want to publicly be putting out your salaries into that. So there is a structured process to go through. So when it comes to adopting AI, consider your storage. Where is your data? Azure provides a platform and a suite of tools for storing your data. It could be a copy of your data. It could be that you're putting it in a database in Azure and you're centralizing that with Azure SQL. But what are your data points that you want to go and do that with? Microsoft Fabric is really, really good, because on that journey to AI, and the previous slide I showed you all the different considerations and steps to AI. Microsoft Fabric, if you sort of come in one step from either end, it pretty much covers like 90% of that AI journey, where it can connect to data, it can transform data, it can create machine learning models, it can do analytics against that, it can do data visualizations against that, and it can do actions based on conditions within that data. So it's quite powerful as a platform to be able to get your data in a state that you're actually going to be able to exploit, but not if you just keeping your data as data silos. Treat it as your most valuable asset, as a single asset. And when you treat it like that, and you start using tools like Fabric, then you can start doing clever things like running analytics against your data that can find insights into your data that humans couldn't, or potentially humans could, but would take them many months to get to the answer, which it can go and do in seconds. I'll give you an example. I built a machine learning model. I followed a kid on YouTube. He was 15 years old, very bright kid. And I took a public data set around MRI data. So MRI, we think of it as pictures, but actually behind the scenes, it's just a bunch of kind of Excel data. And this was about tumours, its shape and size, and its whether it's convex or concave, and whether it's rough or smooth, and a whole bunch of other information that's just values in an Excel spreadsheet. And some of that information turned out to be those tumours ended up being malignant. Some of them ended up being benign, and that was also captured in the data set. That was fed into a machine learning model, all that data. And what it learned was, I now know how to identify, and I ran this. It took me about 15-20 minutes to go and build this. And it was able, through the machine learning model, with a 97% degree accuracy in 15-20 minutes of work, was 96-97% of the time, it was able to identify when it was fed new data that didn't have the diagnosis. It was able to diagnose because it could detect patterns and trends and knew the algorithm of identifying whether that data was going to be malignant or benign. With a larger data set and more time, then obviously that would improve much higher. So machine learning sounds complicated, sounds scary. Actually isn't. There's some really good training examples. Microsoft provides you a bunch of credit card data in one of their sort of scenarios that you can get run through the model to kind of learn it, and then you visualize that data. I love Power BI. It's actually quite complicated. I'm pretty good with a lot of Microsoft products. I do not know a lick of code, but I do like how it can communicate ideas visually, and being able to have Copilot. I could probably spend 2 weeks building a really sexy dashboard that communicates ideas. It can do exactly the same thing to a higher standard in about 45 seconds. It's a no-brainer. So when you think about what is it you're trying to do in terms of customer experience, are you trying to make more personalized recommendations, both virtual assistants, do predictive analysis, or seamless checkout, whatever it may be? You need to think about, okay, what are the tools that Microsoft offer that can help support me in this goal? I appreciate on this webinar, you're not going to take this information and go, right, great, I am good to go, I will go and build it tomorrow. But understanding that there is a landscape, a whole suite of tools that align itself, their capabilities align itself to achieving particular customer experience goals, as well as a myriad of other goals, that they exist and that they can be exploited and bent to your will to achieve the outcome that you're looking for. So if we ran through that as an example, let's say we're in Q2 now, and you decide, right, I've got some foundational elements that exist in Azure and 365. What can I do to be more strategic when it comes to my customer experience? Well, when I feed my customer data into Azure, it's not there today, but I am going to feed it into Azure, or it is there today, but I'm going to make it accessible to other products. So, for example, Microsoft Fabric. And then with that, you can effectively create a chat interface or use Power BI or a Copilot to create a natural language processing interface that allows you to have a conversation with your data, with your customer data. You can converse like Jarvis from Iron Man. You can have a conversation with your data, and it will communicate back to you. So you think, that's fantastic. Let's go and feed in some more data. Let's give it more stuff because I'm seeing the value of that. Okay, this is so capable. I can actually use this and externalize this and deliver a virtual assistant on my website to go and help customers delivering a sexy experience. So far, you haven't actually spent a lot of money to be able to do this. Yes, so there's some storage costs and there's some, time is probably your and data preparation is probably your biggest effort, but in terms of infrastructure costs, not enormous. And then you say, right, I've got all this data and I've cleaned it up and I've got my virtual assistant. Well, from that, I can actually do some analysis against that data. And now I can predict what my revenues are going to be based on all my sales or my profits or whatever it may be. You can get that from your analytics service, but then from that can also give you the opportunity to do targeted prospecting, whether that is through campaigns or whatever the method. You're starting to be able to have that data and that analytics adjust the way you behave as an organization, because now you're targeting, you're prospecting those that are going to deliver the greatest revenue reward for your activity. And then you layer on machine learning. So now it's making personalized recommendations. Understood. Customer A has bought 1,000 different products over the years, and these are the sort of things he's done. Customer B has done these sort of things, and it starts finding those patterns, just like that medical example I gave you. Starts finding patterns in that data. Obviously, more than 2 customers would be required, but from that, it can understand what recommendations, what behaviours, but what recommendations are most likely to resonate with your customer profile. And then you can visualize some of that for your internal teams. Perhaps now you can actually understand the lifetime value of a customer that you haven't even met yet, because you understand the behavior of other customers, and based on that profile and based on that prospecting, maybe you can understand the lifetime value that they will offer. And then maybe with all of that information, you can start delivering other products and experiences to your customer base to deliver more value, to improve that customer experience, such as a seamless checkout. There are a myriad of others. So this is kind of a journey, and you can see that actually we started in Q2, it's Christmas, and we're starting to deliver really good outcomes. You can do this. It's not that hard. It's really quite incredible what you can do with AI. And if I probably won't have time to show you some other examples, but when you think about doing it, do it in a structured way. Don't go off half-cocked. It's all about delivering a strategy. So think about, what are you trying to achieve? What's it going to do for the business? How am I going to consume data to go and achieve that objective? What technology do I need to consume? I don't know enough about doing this on my own. I need a partner that's going to go and help me. I want to do that in a responsible and ethical way in terms of how I'm going to use that data and make sure it's appropriately compliant the way it's going to use. I probably need to consider what I need to do to enable my workforce to make best use of what it is I'm delivering. And that once I've delivered it, I want it to get better over time. Putting all these components in and documenting them in a strategy, and of course, AI can help you document that. These are key strategic components. So consider your needs in terms of what you want to analyze, in terms of whether it's fraud or whatever, but consider how you're going to tailor your offerings. Consider your recommendations and how you're going to improve your AI outcomes. Consider how you're going to optimize your inventory levels to ensure that the right products are available for your customers, so you can deliver a better customer experience by having those things in stock, because you're preempting what the need is. Have AI powered search, so you're delivering a better catalog and search experience for your customers. The number of opportunities are endless. So where do you start? In part one, we covered steps 1, 2, 3, 4 in this 7-step process. In this webinar, I've covered off 5, 6, and 7. So you start by migrating to the cloud and following the 7-step process. You start by engaging people like me and Cloud Direct to understand the art of the possible, so you can start thinking about that first step, an AI strategy. What do I need? How do I prepare? How do I move this conversation forward? And then you start the activity of delivering meaningful business change. And in this context, that is a better customer experience. If you're interested in part one, which is more infrastructure related in terms of those baseline foundational building blocks, there is a QR code on the screen. You can also find it on YouTube, and it is the part one of this series. If there are any questions, I appreciate I'm exactly 1 hour, which is what it was supposed to be, and I've not really left much time for any questions. So I'm just going to pause for 10 seconds. If you have any questions, just tap something in. Adam is monitoring the chat, so if you have any questions, let me know. And if I haven't heard or anything from you in 10 seconds, I'll shut the call down. So Adam, can you see anyone feverishly typing?
No, not at the minute.
Okay. Feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn if you've got any other questions. Also, you can reach out to us, our email and contact details there, if you'd like to explore how your business can benefit from exploiting your data to achieve AI outcomes to improve customer experience, or indeed any other business outcome. Thanks for your time, everyone, and I'll shut down the call. Thank you.